What are the costs for filing a default divorce in Oklahoma? I'm also Attorney James Wirth, and that's the question that we have. So first, we need to talk about what is a default divorce. Well, in any type of civil case, you file your petition, you get service of it on the defendant. The defendant has a set amount of time to file a responsive pleading. If they do not file that responsive pleading, they fail to appear in court, then you can request default judgment, which is essentially that you're going to request that the court award what you asked for in your petition without having to prove your case because the defendant is not participating, and therefore you should get what you're requesting. Now, the court doesn't have to grant everything that you're requesting. It still has to be legal for the court to do so, and if you're requesting some things, the court may just sign off on it. Other things, the court may have more scrutiny and want some indication or offer of proof or an actual hearing potentially on damages to determine that you're entitled to what you're requesting. But you can't have a full fair hearing if the other side is not participating. Therefore, the law allows you to file for a default. So what are the costs associated with doing that in a divorce? Well, the filing fees are going to be the same for filing the petition. Typical petition, if you're represented by an attorney and you need one summons, $272.14 in the state of Oklahoma. But I think the question relates to what is the cost of representation. So with my office, if we're filing for a divorce, we've got evergreen retainers. You pay a certain amount up front, whether that be $3,500, $5,000. It bills hourly, and you maintain that retainer balance as it is billed on a weekly basis. But if the matter is fully agreed, and we're doing agreed divorce, meaning that the parties have agreed to all terms, they're in agreement to get divorced, they're in agreement regarding if there's kids, custody, visitation, child support, they're in agreement on who's paying attorney's fees, they're in agreement on asset division, debt division, all of those types of things, whether there's spousal support or not. If they're in agreement with all terms, then we've got that as an agreed divorce, and we usually do those as a flat fee. Okay, so how much is it if it is a default divorce? Well, typically, with my firm, that would fall into the first category because we don't know that it's going to be a default divorce up front. We have to go through the process of getting the person served, whether that's by process server or by certified mail, or whether that's by service by publication. Then we have to see if they respond. If they don't, it can be, sometimes it's easy. You present it, just hand the judge, an agreed or a default decree saying they didn't file responsive pleading timely. The judge may sign off on it. Other ones, the judge may say, you know what, I want a motion for that. You've got to draft a motion for default judgment, and then you've got to set that for a hearing, and then at the hearing, the judge may decide, to grant it at that time. So it can go a lot of different ways and be a lot of different level of work because we don't know how the judge is going to handle the defaults. We don't know whether the person's actually going to be in default. So for the cost of representation, even if we think up front that the other party's not going to respond, we don't know for sure, so it's going to fall into the first category. We're going to treat it as far as our retainer as a typical divorce. We're not going to treat it as an agreed divorce. And with an evergreen retainer, any funds left in the retainer when the case is completed are refunded to the client. So if you've got questions about the cost of going through a civil proceeding, whether it's divorce or something else in the state of Oklahoma, you might want to talk to an attorney about your specific circumstances to receive legal advice specific to you. If you'd like to get that scheduled with an attorney at my office, you can go online to makelaweasy.com.